The armory master's scales rippled with what Hazel had learned to recognize as vexary amusement. Human, Krell clicked, his mandibles spreading wide. You cannot enter the proving without proper weaponry. It is forbidden. Hazel stood before the towering alien, her arms crossed. Around them, the staging area buzzed with activity as dozens of species prepared for the combat trials. The proving was legendary across 7 sectors, a test of skill, strength, and adaptability that determined placement within the Galactic Defense Corps. Only the best of the best earned positions on frontline vessels. I understand the rules, Hazel said calmly. I'm not asking for an exception. Krell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Then you comprehend that without selecting a weapon from our arsenal, you forfeit your entry. I'll make do. The armory master's translator chip struggled with what sounded like a chittering laugh. Make do. Human arrogance knows no bounds. The proving pits you against Kresh berserkers, Talaxian blade dancers, and Marathi shock troops. You would face them unarmed. Hazel smiled thinly. I didn't say unarmed. I said I'll make do. Before Krell could respond, she turned and walked toward the preparation chambers. Behind her, she heard the armory master's confused clicking fade into the general cacophony. Antonio found her in Chamber 7, sitting cross-legged on the floor. The young engineer had befriended Hazel during their 3-month journey to the proving station. Bonded by their shared status as the only humans in a contingent of 200 alien recruits. Please tell me you're not seriously doing this, Antonio said, dropping his pack beside her. His dark eyes were worried. Hazel, I've seen the footage. Last year, 37 participants died. 70 more were permanently disabled. I know the statistics. Then take a weapon. Any weapon. There's a plasma rifle that won't work, Hazel interrupted gently. She placed her palm flat against the floor plate beneath her. The metal was cold, standard durasteel alloy used throughout the station. Their weapons are designed for their Kresh rifles are too heavy. Talaxian blades require 6 fingers to grip properly. Marathi shock weapons would overload my nervous system. Antonio knelt beside her. So you're going in with nothing? Hazel's eyes gleamed. I didn't say that. She pressed both palms against the floor now, fingers splayed wide. Antonio watched, confused, until he noticed the subtle change. The metal beneath her hands was warming. No more than warming. It was beginning to glow. Hazel, what are you humans? She said softly, her voice taking on a lecturing quality even as her concentration deepened. Have an average body temperature of 37 degrees Celsius, but we can survive in environments ranging from -40 to +50. We adapt. It's what we do. The glow intensified. Antonio stumbled backward as heat radiated outward. The durasteel was softening, responding to something he couldn't quite comprehend. The other species don't understand, Hazel continued. They think technology makes them superior. They've forgotten that their ancestors once shaped their worlds with bare hands. Just like ours did. Her fingers sank into the metal as if it were clay. Humans never forgot. Antonio watched, transfixed, as Hazel began to pull. The floor plate resisted, then yielded, stretching upward in a ribbon of molten metal that somehow didn't burn her skin. She worked with steady confidence, her movements precise and deliberate. The durasteel flowed between her fingers like water, responding to her will in defiance of every physical law. Antonio understood. How? He whispered. We're stubborn, Hazel said. And despite the intensity of what she was doing, there was humor in her voice. The universe keeps telling us what we can't do. We keep proving it wrong. The metal ribbon twisted, folded, compressed. Hazel's hands moved in patterns that seemed almost ritualistic, shaping the impossible. The temperature in the chamber spiked, then dropped. The durasteel cooled rapidly, molecular bonds reforming stronger than before. 20 minutes later, Hazel stood, holding a blade. It was beautiful in its simplicity. 90 centimeters of perfectly balanced steel, the edge so fine it seemed to slice the air itself. The handle bore the impressions of her grip, custom fitted to her hand alone. Light caught the blade's surface, revealing subtle patterns in the metal stress lines that somehow enhanced rather than weakened the structure. Antonio reached out, then hesitated. Can I? Hazel handed it to him. The engineer nearly dropped it, surprised by the weight. It's heavier than it looks. Denser. The molecular compression changed the composition. Hazel took the blade back, testing its balance with a few experimental swings. It'll hold an edge better than anything in Krell's armory. But how did you do that? Humans can't manipulate metal with our bare hands. It's impossible. Hazel sheathed the blade in a makeshift scabbard fashioned from her jacket. Impossible is a word invented by people who gave up to ice. Our ancestors shaped tools from stone, forged weapons from iron, split atoms, and crossed the void between stars. We've always made do, Antonio. It's the most human thing there is. The proving arena fell silent as Hazel entered. She wore standard combat fatigues, no armor, no additional equipment, just the blade strapped to her back and an expression of calm determination. The viewing platforms held thousands of spectators, recruiters, veterans, and curious civilians from across the galaxy, all eyes fixed on the lone human stepping onto the blood-stained sand. Across from her, 3 opponents materialized from their holding chambers: a Kresh berserker, all chitinous plates and battle fury, a Talaxian blade dancer, 6 arms holding curved weapons that hummed with vibrational energy, a Marathi shock trooper, bioelectric currents crackling across its amphibious skin. The announcer's voice boomed through translators. Combat scenario, survival, duration, until surrender or incapacitation, begin. The Kresh charged first, as they always did. Hazel moved like water, flowing around its crushing strike. Her blade whispered free from its sheath, the edge catching light for just an instant before it found the gap between katana's plates. The Kresh roared, stumbled, fell. The Talaxian attacked from 3 angles simultaneously, 6 swords creating a web of deadly steel. Hazel's blade met each strike with impossible precision, deflecting, redirecting, never meeting force with force but always being exactly where it needed to be. She ducked under a high slash, pivoted past a thrust, and her blade traced a silver arc through the air. 4 of the Talaxian swords clattered to the sand, their wielding arms hanging useless. The Marathi hesitated, having watched its companions fall in seconds. Bioelectric energy built across its skin, preparing to discharge in a devastating shockwave that would incapacitate any opponent within 5 meters. Hazel threw her blade, that it spun through the air, a disc of gleaming metal that struck the Marathi's primary neural cluster with surgical accuracy. The alien collapsed, its electrical discharge earthing harmlessly into the sand. Silence. Then the arena erupted in noise, cheers, clicks, howls, and vocalizations from 100 species. Hazel walked calmly to retrieve her blade, cleaning it on the sand before returning it to its sheath. Antonio was waiting when she exited the arena, his face split by an enormous grin. That was incredible. The recruiters are fighting over you. 3 frontline vessels have already submitted bids. Hazel smiled tiredly. Good, I came here to serve, not to make a point, but you did make a point. Antonio gestured to the viewing screens, which showed instant replays from multiple angles. Everyone saw what you did. Not just in the arena before it. They're calling it impossible. The Metalworkers Guild wants to study you. The Vex-30 Science Academy is offering research grants. Let them study someone else. Hazel started walking toward the debriefing chambers. I just showed them what humans have always known. We don't need the universe to give us what we need. We make it ourselves. Behind them, in the armory, Krell stood examining the floor of Chamber 7. The perfectly circular hole in the durasteel plating was 10 centimeters across, the edges smooth as glass. He ran a claw along the rim, feeling the heat still radiating from the metal. His mandibles clicked in what might have been respect. Humans, he said to no one in particular. Perhaps we have underestimated them. On the viewing screens, Hazel's blade continued to gleam, a testament to human ingenuity, stubbornness, and the unshakable belief that impossible was just another problem waiting to be solved.